Shadows over Korea, the 8th Rangers, and the 8240th Special Unit. Imagine a war fought not across wide plains or famous beaches, but over jagged hills, snow-covered ridgelines, and rice paddies frozen stiff under a gray Korean sky. This was Korea, raw, unforgiving, and far more complicated than most Americans ever realized. From 1950 to 1953, the Korean War reshaped how the U.S. military thought about one crucial element: ground reconnaissance. Gone were the sweeping tank battles of World War II. In their place, small patrols, night raids, boots scraping along ridgelines barely wider than a goat trail. The war was fought hill by hill, outpost by outpost, often in silence. In this difficult terrain, two American units stood out, both unconventional, both pioneers. The first, a formally recognized elite light infantry force, the 8th Ranger Infantry Company, Airborne. The second, covert, deniable, and largely forgotten, the 8,240th Army Unit, known simply as the Special Unit. Korea's terrain wasn't just challenging, it was punishing. Mountain ridges, steep valleys, freezing rivers, and summer heat that could blister skin. It was a land where front lines shifted without warning, where a small hill could dominate an entire valley, and where the enemy often appeared without sound. In such an environment, traditional reconnaissance methods failed. The military quickly learned that aerial photos and radio intercepts were not enough. Commanders needed eyes on the ground, fast, agile teams capable of navigating the landscape, locating the enemy, and disappearing before being spotted. This new type of warfare demanded innovation. It demanded soldiers trained to operate independently behind enemy lines with precision and stealth. The 8th Rangers answered that call. In August 1950, under direct orders from General J. Lawton Collins, the U.S. Army created 15 elite Ranger companies. Modeled after World War II's Merrill's Marauders and the original Ranger battalions, these units were designed for infiltration, reconnaissance, and direct action. The 8th Ranger Infantry Company, Airborne, was born at Fort Benning, Georgia. Its ranks were filled with paratroopers, combat-hardened infantrymen, and volunteers drawn by the promise of high-stakes, high-skill operations. Selection was rigorous. Physical endurance, mental resilience, and independent thinking were prerequisites. Training covered every aspect of irregular warfare: nighttime navigation, demolitions, hand-to-hand combat, and rapid airborne insertion. They were trained to be precise, ruthless, and self-reliant. By the time they arrived in Korea, they were among the most capable small units in the U.S. Army. Attached initially to the 24th Infantry Division and later to the 1st Cavalry Division, the 8th Rangers quickly established a reputation for effective deep reconnaissance and night operations. They worked in small teams, 12 to 20 men, conducting raids, capturing prisoners, and gathering actionable intelligence. Their missions often meant moving deep into enemy territory without backup, striking fast, and returning before the enemy knew what had happened. One of their most notable operations took place in January 1951. Intelligence reports indicated a North Korean artillery spotting team had taken position atop Hill 581, near the Hwachon Reservoir. Under cover of darkness, the Rangers scaled the steep incline, neutralized enemy sentries with knives and suppressed weapons, and destroyed the observation post using satchel charges. The following morning, UN forces captured the hill with minimal casualties. The enemy had lost its eyes. This was the Ranger model: surgical, silent, and effective. Despite their success, the Ranger companies were short-lived. By March 1951, Army leadership began to question their long-term viability. it was decided that their missions could be absorbed into divisional reconnaissance units. The 8th Ranger Company was officially inactivated in August 1951. But their legacy endured. Veterans of the unit transferred their knowledge to emerging long-range reconnaissance patrol units in Vietnam. Others became foundational figures in the development of U.S. Army Special Forces. They had demonstrated that small, highly trained teams could operate independently in hostile territory and deliver precise, high-value results. Their methods would inform military doctrine for decades to come. While the 8th Rangers fought with precision under the Army's banner, another force operated in the shadows. Created in late 1950 under the cover of a standard Army designation, the 8240th, 240th Army Unit was anything but conventional. Overseen jointly by the CIA and Army G2, this special unit was a vehicle for guerrilla warfare and deep covert action. Its core fighting force was made up of Korean partisans, North Korean defectors, anti-communist villagers, and irregular fighters. They were trained, supplied, and advised by American personnel, many of whom were veterans of the Office of Strategic Services or Early Special Forces. The 8240th missions ranged from sabotage and ambushes to psychological warfare and intelligence gathering. Teams operated behind enemy lines, often in civilian clothing, blending in with local populations and relying on intricate human intelligence networks. Among the most celebrated missions was Operation Spitfire in 1951. That spring, multiple partisan teams, each paired with American advisors, inserted along the enemy-controlled eastern coastline using rubber boats launched from U.S. Navy destroyers. Under cover of darkness and heavy fog, the teams sabotaged a key railway line, planted charges at a fuel depot, and ambushed a convoy on a mountain pass. One team even returned with 2 Chinese prisoners and detailed enemy maps. All teams exfiltrated successfully. The mission disrupted Chinese logistics for weeks and demonstrated the effectiveness of Korean-led partisan operations when guided by skilled American oversight. While their methods differed, the 8th Rangers and this special unit shared a common trait: effectiveness in operating beyond the reach of traditional forces. One fought in uniform with formal objectives. The other moved in shadows, shaping the war's undercurrent. Together, they showed that unconventional warfare was not a side story. It was central to success on the Korean battlefield. Both units laid the groundwork for the future. Their tactics, small team infiltration, human intelligence gathering, night operations, would become standard practice in later conflicts, from Vietnam to Afghanistan. As the Korean War drew to a close, the 82nd 40th began to disband. Some partisans joined the Republic of Korea Army. Many American advisors transferred into newly formed Special Forces units or intelligence roles. Though the 82nd 40th left behind no formal battle streamers, its influence lived on in doctrine, training programs, and operational models for decades to come. The 8th Rangers, too, lived on through the units they inspired. Their spirit, stealth, precision, and adaptability remains embedded in today's Ranger Regiment and Special Operations community. The Korean War remains less visible in American memory than World War II or Vietnam. But for the evolution of ground reconnaissance, it was a turning point. In those frozen valleys and silent hills, the U.S. military discovered the power of the small team, the value of infiltration, the necessity of blending conventional strength with unconventional skill. The 8th Rangers and the 82nd 40th Special Unit were not just footnotes, they were the blueprint. They showed what could be accomplished when training met trust, when planning met improvisation. And though they rarely made headlines, their legacy endures, in doctrine, in training, and in the very way Special Operations Forces move through the world today. They were the eyes in the hills, the shadows along the coast, the whisper in the valley just before the thunder rolled.